Welcome everyone and thank you for participating at this panel, this presentation. I will start without the presentation. There seems to be some technical problem with launching the presentation, but till then I'll do the introduction, set the stage for the context of the presentation. My name is Vasko Kronevski. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Nextsense. We are a software product company specialized in product portfolio related to European Union eiDAS Trust Services Regulation. This sounds very technical, maybe not known to every one of you, but basically relates to the portfolio of products around electronic document signing, verification, timestamping, etc. We're a company already 23 years on the market. We work on more than 20 markets across the world. We have very strong presence in Central Eastern Europe, around 14 countries of Central Eastern Europe, where we have our distributors and authorized partners who integrate this product portfolio to build up enterprise solutions that will use electronic signatures in diverse solution case studies that I will focus on a little bit later. When we talk about eiDAS regulation and what is the drivers around that, why we need, first of all, to go there, why any enterprise needs to go there. The main drivers comes from the, first of all, efficiency. We want to be efficient in processing any kind of a collaborative collecting of signatures, authorizing, approving something, etc. Then we want to be cost savings. It's much cheaper to orchestrate, to collect signatures, to store, to maintain, and to have this legal proof. On the other side, we also want to be sure who is the other side on the other side signing or approving. So we need to check the identity, which in electronic world is much easier than in physical, because we need to trust the other side that it's the proper one, and then checking whether the signature is belonging to that person or not. This authentication, authorization part in physical world, when it's delegated to front desk offices, to representatives, sales representative, it's not that really 100% secure. And also, we need to think about security. So how do we protect the data? How we protect it from changing it? How we ensure that what has been signed has not been changed? In the physical world, we usually go to the notary services. If it's something very important, we go to the notary, they witness that we are, they identify us, they protect the content, they keep it and store a safe copy of it. They will put, they will sue the set of papers, put some wax seal on top of that. There is much better way to do it in the electronic world. So one of the drivers is to make sure that the authenticity of documents remain. We trust that electronic document that it already has been processed, and we can always verify if it was done by the proper person and if it's still authentic as at the time it was signed. So all this has been, thank you, you're back. So I did a short introduction already. I'll skip a couple of slides. So we were talking about the customer expectations of convenience. It's more convenient that you just receive an email, you're invited to do electronic document signing, you authenticate, you identify yourself, you apply your signature, and then you move forward. The drivers comes also from convenience. So especially when we talk about globalization of remote work. You have diverse workforce. Most of the companies today have a lot of people working from home or distant locations. So how do you orchestrate collecting signatures or approvals when your workforce is not in physical office as you are? So this is also another driver why we should go there. And the legal validity of it. So it's already there since 2014, so 10 years already on the market. But if you look around, the adoption of that is very hard. Any company, blindly, I'm not talking just about Hungary, I'm talking about all across Europe. If you go and dig really deep into the enterprise systems, you will see there is a lack of it. Why? Because the approach is per demand, specific demand. If a specific vertical, let's say HR, wants to solve it, they will build something within the HR system that will make it work somehow, maybe not even 100% compliant and legal by regulation, but it would be good enough for my company to work, and then apply it in this way. The approach that we basically recommend is the cornerstone of the approach is basically comes from the definition of eiDAS. eiDAS introduced 4 core new services, basically. Electronic identification, how you are sure that the other party on the other side is the person that it says it is, and if this is the right person, I want to engage in transaction, signing, contract, statement, whatever it's that needs to be done. Then signature, it's the fully valid as physical signature, but it's even more, because it's not just the signature, but it's attesting that it's the person that it said it is, and that signature basically proves that it approved the content or a set of data at that point of time that he is doing this. An introduction of a seal, it's not the same as stamp, but it's very similar to our perception of stamps, but proves the origin of a document that came from a certain organization. If an automated system produced a report or a statement or something like that, how do we make sure that we protect that this is not changed before it's delivered or stored somewhere, and how the other side that is reading it today, tomorrow, 5 years later, knows that this document was issued by Nextsense or by Clico or by someone else. Sealing, basically, the root of sealing and the definition of sealing is that provides the authenticity and source who produced this document. And this is not a person, it's a system, it's a company behind that is very similar as you identify by SSLs which is the organization managing the website or the mail servers or something on the other side. Very similar, the seals gives this for the documents. And the timestamp basically provides the evidence that that was the content and it's not been changed since then. So combination of those 4 basically leave, it's the connection, the legal compliance, how you can fully digitalize your work. But how to do it? And what are the obstacles and what are the challenges why you really don't see 100% digital organization? You still see papers. You still see a lot of collaborative work. And when something is very important, then it's a paper signature. Why? Because doing so in the traditional systems that any enterprise has, ERPs, CRMs, HR softwares, production system, whatever is out there, doing it within those systems basically means that you need to upgrade that system, you need to introduce some new complexity into that systems, which were not built to do so. And this is the wrong approach, because if you try to do so, then you have 10 different systems, then you have 10 different upgrades, then you have 10 different complexity to maintain and manage documents within systems which were not designed to do so. And what happens when the regulation changes? And since this is quite new, regulation changes quite often. So standards change every 6 to 12 months. So then you go back upgrading your 10 enterprise systems to make it compliant, to make it work. The way to do it is to introduce digital transformation building blocks, as we say. So you build separate systems that will focus to ensure that you are fully compliant and legal when you sign, when you receive already signed documents, you can verify, you can make sure that you build the trust within those documents, and you can rest assured that even after 5 years, if there is some litigation or some court case, you are protected that this document is fully valid by the law. It doesn't matter if it was signed by one or multiple persons, inside, outside of the company, with customers, with partners, so you make sure that this is working. What we say is that you need to build several different building blocks and integrate the applications that you already use, whether it's internal, customer-facing, partner-facing, vendors, suppliers, but everything should run through these standardized systems that will ensure that everything is done the same way, compliant way, and it's always up to date. And when something changes, only one piece is upgraded, one piece is updated, and then everything is immediately compliant. What we tend to say is that we built a set of product portfolio called Nextsense Signing Suite, which basically introduced these different digital trust blocks. how you can implement different pillars within your organization depending on the priority, which one should be first or which one is missing. Because some of those pillars maybe already exist, but some of those maybe don't. And some of those pillars needs to be built within the company, and some of those pillars can be used as services from outside. You already have some service providers providing electronic signatures, providing services to sign documents, but maybe they don't provide storage of those documents, verification of those documents, and how do you resolve this complexity? So Nextsense Signing Suite, basically, it's a suite of different software products aimed for companies, aimed for software developers to integrate as components within their systems, for system integrators to integrate with other products that they deliver, so they can achieve these digital building blocks at the customer side. It does signature, it does verification, it does timestamping across different products within the portfolio. I skip one slide. I want to mention that we have a very strong partnership with Thales. We tend to say that we built a lot of products that are compliant with Thales software and hardware products. We have different product portfolios that we'll mention later on, from token-based signing, so we are fully compliant with all the tokens, hardware tokens issued by Thales, but also HSMs for sealing, HSM for remote signing, and something that is quite new, and we are at the ending process of certification of a new software product. It's called Nextsense Signature Activation Module. By the EU regulation, if you want to do remote signatures and to store certificates at the hosting provider within the company as a company or as a service provider outside, you need to keep those certificates within HSM, and this HSM needs to be running inside the HSM secure environment a software component called SAM, or Signature Activation Module. So we expect the certification to be done by June, and this will be the first SAM module running on Thales HSMs that will provide this service if you want to use remote signatures, build remote IDs, etc. I'll talk a little bit more later on different case studies. So what are these building blocks? And I will introduce them shortly, each of them, and try to position them within a typical enterprise environment. So we have a product called Signing Portal, and this, as we say, it's a portal that orchestrates collection of signatures on a single document, set of documents, by one party, multiple parties, one or more signatures per party. It's very flexible, it's very easy to be configured, you don't need any technical programming skills to do it. Any business analyst with any company can use it to create a typical flow for each of different uses within the company. And why to have this and not to build it within each of the applications? As I said, if you try to do it within the HR systems, within the CRM systems, ERP, ordering, etc., you build complexity, because within signing, you have different complexities. Who has the right to sign? It's one of those three people. Then do you need one or three signatures? Who signs first, who signs second? What is the minimum compliance per type of document, and who needs to sign and who needs to verify to make sure that everything by the policies of the company is there? So this is what is done by Signing Portal. You can pre-configure that. You can have all those different processes of signing and verification there, but you don't need to use it to launch a signing process. You can still use your HR systems or your contracting system, your ERP, your ordering, but when something needs to be completed with signing, you can just ask through APIs, through web services, the Signing Portal, instruct with specific instruction what needs to be signed, by whom, when, authorities, etc. And then the system will start orchestrating, collecting documents, verifying users, collecting signatures, verifying that everything is signed according to the previously compliance definition, and then complete the signing case. So you outsource these complexities outside of your applications, and you know that whatever it's done, it's fully compliant. Then the second building block, it's you have some very specific high volume application towards customers. So let's say you have 1 million customers, that do very simple process of ordering or contracting. So you're a utility provider selling electricity, gas, whatever you want to have your customers sign a contract when they renew. Maybe it's not wise to redirect them to a signing portal because they do this once every 2 or 3 years. It's not so frequent. You're not a bank, so you don't have 15 signatures per customer per year, but this is just renewal or contract every 2 years. Then maybe you should consider using a standardized component that you integrate within your web applications that will totally outsource the complexity of signing outside of your web application, and with just one line of code, you integrate this component, and any application that works with documents can apply signatures. That's signing extension. It works on any browser, works on Apple, Windows, Linux. So basically the customer side has zero complexity to use it. I emphasize zero complexity to use it because all of us know that when we're using tokens to sign in browser, there is a Java version, update, stop working, some security issue, I need to use Explorer, I need to use this specific browser. With this, you don't. Works on any browser or any system, and it doesn't require any technical knowledge by the end user to install, not even administrative rights on the machine where the user works to be installed. And this is the competitive use of it. Why this? When I said we don't want to build within the applications, but if someone wants it, to put it inside the HR system or the public portal or within all of the applications they can have one component to serve all these needs. Signing server, it's a very specific building block, I would say one of the most important ones. And what it does basically, it can apply electronic seal on any document, XML, PDF, binary document. It can apply timestamps. It can verify already signed documents that the signatures are valid at the time of signing. It can upgrade and include these verifications of the signatures being valid inside the document and seal it so it has this long-term validation format. So when I open it 10 years after, I will for certainly know that this was valid when it was signed. And those are typical operations when you fully try to digitalize your company. These operations are quite often, and sometimes on bulk of documents. Large organizations like tax authorities, utilities, telcos, banks have hundreds of thousands, millions of documents that needs to be processed. Signing server is the product to do this and to scale endlessly. We have case studies with millions of documents per hour, and this is something that needs to be outside of the complexity of other systems. Tightly integrates with Thales Luna HSMs to safeguard the use of the private key of the organization and to have the specific ways to use it. Identity server, it's something that is out there on the market. There are many identity servers, single sign-on systems by many vendors. But what is specific about this product, when it was designed and when it was originally developed, we had in mind the specific requirements we need that needs to be related to electronic identity according to eiDAS regulation. So orchestrate collection and proving of identity at the moment of authentication, provide proof of identity. So when you go to the front desk office in a bank, they typically ask for your ID. So when you come to an online service where you need to really be identified, you need to present your ID. But before presenting your ID, they would require you to authenticate to the system. So you authenticate to the system, and then there is a technical protocol that says, okay, now provide me your digital ID. So you don't show to the bank, to the telecom, to anyone else your digital ID, but you are sent to an ID service, which can be run by your local providers like NIS, Microsec, or any European ones. So you're redirected there, and then this provider provides back to this application a proof of your digital identity. It's an outsourced service which is managed by identity service. So these redirections and integrations to provide identity at the time of your authentication and basically logging into the system, you can also request different information that can be built up in the process. eSign, it's a specific application that it's applied when you want to do tablet-based signing. Sometimes you have someone that works on the field, can deliver some goods, can install some goods, can do some service, and you want to collect signature by the customer. You can collect it like a graphical signature, you can collect it like a biometric signature, but you need to protect it, you need to have a backend systems that will encrypt the signature, that will make sure that it's not changed and it's completely authentic as it was signed. So eSign infrastructure basically delivers that. And then we are talking about different kind of electronic documents, different flows from different applications, and this becomes huge, hundreds of thousands, millions of documents, but these electronic documents need specific type of handling. It's not a typical DMS that can solve this. Before you accepting this document and storing, you need to verify that everything is according to standard. And as soon as it's inside, how do I make sure that 30 years from now, this document is still valid? Because it was timestamped. By the issuer of the timestamp, their timestamp certificate expired. So I need to re-timestamp them at certain point. So who will manage this trust of these millions of documents that will remain valid after a long time? So corporate document repository basically was designed to be just the repository of the electronic documents. So you make sure that you store, you safekeep it, you destroy if you need it, because there is classification for documents to be destroyed, but also provide easy way to share back this content to other applications. So when you work with customers, with internal systems, etc., whatever you do and you finish, you just drop it in the repository and you get access to those documents in an easy way in the same application. So you basically get rid of all the documents from all the enterprise applications and you safekeep them in one place. Because you trust this place, you know that these electronic documents were verified, they have put even archival stamp, archival number, and you know that they will be destroyed when the time needs to be destroyed, they will be kept for the time needs to be kept, and they will be verified to be trusted in the time that comes. Those were the products focused to enterprises. But there are products, some of them the same, some also different, that are focused to trust service providers. So trust service provider can be someone offering services to the public. They need to be certified, they need to be audited. So like I mentioned, NIS, Microsec, and many others. There are many of those in Hungary, but all across Europe, and they're valid. European ones are valid in Hungary, Hungary ones are valid, some of them in European countries. So this is also cross-border compatibility of those services. Some of these products address those trust service providers, so they can use this product to build a service to the customers, but also very valid for large enterprises when they want to become trust service provider for themselves. Because if it's a very large organization and they don't want to pay per use for a specific service, they can build some of this infrastructure for themselves. If they want to build the trust to the outside world, they need to certify it and audit. If they just want to keep the trust internally, they don't need to certify, they are valid for the internal use. So there are different use cases of how this can be done. I would not talk about the identity service, so basically this is used, you want to create electronic identity, you want to do single sign-ons across application, provide identity proofs across applications. I mentioned Nextsense signature activation module. This is the key component if you want to develop electronic identification or remote signing. So HSM, Luna Thales HSM, Nextsense signature activation module, you have the core component to start building applications. Then you can build your mobile applications, your web applications that will use these remote signatures and identifications that is stored on a central location as a service. Timestamping, many trust service providers are providing timestamping as a service, but some of the organizations which are very internal and locked in their collaboration, and they still want to trust those documents that were done, they implement it for themselves. So even we have customers that do millions of timestampings per hour. Try to request one of the service providers if you can send a million requests to their public service per hour. You will knock down the service. There is not possibility for them to respond on this. So if your tax authority, for example, wants to issue 2 million tax documents overnight, they cannot just send 2 million requests to the timestamping service to NIS or Microsac. They need to build a local infrastructure. And it's worth to even certify, to build, and to have this. Why? Because they can scale. They can have this volume that they require to do. I will briefly just introduce what are the specifics on each of the products, and I'll move on some typical case studies so you can see the potential use of all those components in different use cases. Signing extension, it's a native browser web extension that is basically installed through browser stores. It's been verified by browser stores as secure, as valid. So basically when you have an application that wants to start using electronic signatures on transactions, on documents within the application, you integrate this. It's quite easy. It takes a couple of hours for any developer to enable that application to use electronic document signing using certificates on laptop, tokens, etc. And then when the user approaches your web application, the system detects, it says you need to install, do you agree, redirects the user to the browser, activates it, sends it back to the application, and the user can start signing. This lasts like 5-10 seconds, and immediately you have a signing capability by the user. This is very much applicable on any applications that is used by corporations, by businesses. Because in most of the countries, businesses have certificates to declare their taxes, to declare their annual accounts to the government, to do many transactions with the governments. Businesses are required to have electronic qualified signature by the representatives of the company. So if you want to provide services to the businesses or you have applications that provide those, this component can really make life easier. Instead of users downloading a document, signing it in Acrobat, uploading it back and sending it back, you can just have this native application experience which will allow you in one click to sign the document. And as I said, does not require administrative rights to integrate, to download, to install, and basically it's zero support. We have customers that installed more than 15,000, 20,000 installations in a week to the customer's base, zero support calls. It's very stable, it's out there on the market since 2015, and it's been used by different hardware tokens, different hardware versions. It just works. I recommend you, if some of you work on web applications or you have customers that have web applications that would need the use of electronic document signatures, at the end I will give you instructions how to register as a partner, contact Click also, and then we can easily provide you with the demos, with trials, and you can use this as. We have developer sites, so I mentioned the compatibility in different browsers. I also want to mention that it was always the first signing extension on each of the browsers. It was first on Chrome, it was first on Opera, Mozilla, Edge, Chromium. So basically we follow the changes in different browsers and how they evolve, we evolve the component. And this is why it's wise to go to this type of standardized component instead of home-built components. Because when you have a home-built component for just one system, then you need to run against all the changes of browsers, technology, and this is outsourced towards this component. We have developer site, anyone, it's public, you can register, you immediately have access to the system, your APIs, technical documentations, developer trial, you can basically by yourself try and enable your application to start signing documentation. Signing server, as I said, automated, unattended, sealing, verification, timestamping, upgrading of signatures, re-verification of already signed documents, re-timestamping, etc., etc. Why it's important to have a component like this? When we are talking about sealing using organizational seal, That's one stamp, electronic stamp, like you had one physical stamp in the physical world. Who has access to this stamp? So in physical world, this stamp is not available for every employee in a bank. There is authorizations. So you can multiply into 50 stamps, but you would say stamp number 35 can be used only on invoices or statements, and it's delegated right to Zoltan to use this stamp to sign this type of documents. But how to protect this electronic seal? The private key is kept on HSM or a token for a very small use, and who has the access to it? Typically, enterprise applications would build this specific right to access inside the application. And then whenever you want to change this, change request to the application, developer needs to deploy the new version, and that's the way. Signing server also manages the rights to use the seal, so it becomes in front of the HSM. So you can configure different rights and different uses by different groups within an organization, individuals and systems. So if the HR system needs to put a seal on a specific document, for example, you receive your annual vacation list, and that needs to be sealed. So I will give specific authorization to the HR system to use the private key to seal, but it will be given through specific authorization application key. It will be for a specific type of documents using this specific private key in this specific technical format. And then they don't have the control to change that. They can just send a request, please seal this document. And whenever I want to change anything in all this complexity with one large enterprise, telecom, bank, or utility, you would have hundreds of those authorizations. You have one system that you go in, you change your authorizations, and then everything else continues to work. So you take out the complexity of giving authorizations to use the seal, and also use the verification, use the timestamping, and you put it on one central level. But then volume come in. You need a system that can scale, that can be redundant, and then can dynamically scale. So we have large deployments where customers dynamically scale performances on the run. So as they sign and seal millions of documents, they can add virtual resources and the system will scale. They can stack HSMs, it will scale. So basically, there is no limit on the volume of documents that you can sign. Third-party integration is very easy. You have web services, APIs, folder automations. You can just drop documents in a folder to get specific type of sealing and signing. And this is all, again, based on right to do so, specific type of documents, specific authorizations to specific applications. It gets complex if I go into the technical details, but I encourage you after the presentation. I will be at the stand in the hall. Anyone that gets interested, we can go into details on specific systems, or through ClickCo, we can schedule a meeting and then present specific technical details on each of the products. How it's used? Again, it's a building block. You connect all your applications to it. You administer the right to use, how to use, but also connect external systems. Timestamp from external providers, one or multiple timestamps. I want them redundant. When I have a high volume, I can send to 3 different providers simultaneously. How to verify, to connect their OCSP responders to validate signatures. So all of those connect one, multiple HSMs, connect cloud service providers that keep my private key in the cloud. So all this in one system. Centralized sealing verification system for all. Signing portal, I mentioned it for orchestration and distribution of documents. So you build these specific cases for one or multiple documents, you define who needs to sign, and the system would either get through API documents, or it will start requesting people to provide those documents. It can also build documents on the fly, so launch a dynamic form. So for example, typical within any company is your agreement to process your personal data for some use from HR or someone else. What do you need? You need a form, I agree, and then click on, because you're identified, they know who you are, so you can build up a template document that you will be requested to sign, and this automatically will go into the document repository, so the HR or the legal or the compliance or your GDPR officer will always have it at hand that you agreed for your personal data to be processed. In-person signing in different ways. I can be requested to sign using my token certificate qualified, using my remote mobile ID certificate, or using graphical signature. It depends on the type of signing. So you have one application that you can use to integrate different types of signing. So one side can sign with qualified signature and token, the other side can sign on biometric tablet. But all comes into a single document that is fully validated and has all the right technical standard implemented to be legally valid. Again, it's a centralized building block, so all the enterprise applications integrate to the central signing portal. Signing portal has automated integration with external system for storage of documents, for integrating remote signature providers, for integrating sealing, timestamping. So again, you take out the complexity to do so, you just manage the flow of signing. If any one of you use DocuSign, for example, to sign documents, it's very similar to that, but with higher, I would say, configurability of the system and using qualified signatures. DocuSign does not use qualified signatures. DocuSign only validates your email. So it can prove that the person that was invited to sign is in control of the email vasko@nextsense.com. But it does not prove that I'm really Vasko. So if someone reads my email, my assistant, she can sign it. If someone knows my username and password on DocuSign, they can sign it. The only proof is that IP address used, what at that time was this person, but then you need to go through a court procedure to prove, etc. When you use qualified signatures according to eiDAS, there is no burden of proof. If that signature was used, then it was you. Because all the preparatory steps to issue the signature, your self-control on the signature proves that this is you. The interface is quite simple, even shows a document. You can position programmatically or manually positions of signature. You can put visualization of electronic signatures. You can sign visually or not. It depends on the configuration that you want to do. Typical use, I would say the most typical use is organizations with large number of customers in a profile processes of signing. Statements, requests, contracts, orders of any kind. So you can easily template different processes and then launch instances on those different signature processes. Of course, it can be used within the organization with ad hoc signing, because I don't have a process. I just say, new signature on this document, I request Zoltan to sign. It can also be used like that. But most value brings when there is an organization, let's say telecom, a bank, whoever, he has 1 million customers to renew contracts every year. That's a typical use. Because then you don't go through the hassle into organizing this collection of signatures and signing. If you integrate it with your CRM system, so when the CRM system knows that the contract is there, some officer approves that needs to be renewed, then through APIs, sends the contract for signing, invites the other party to sign, signs internally, invites people to sign, and it's completed. The turnaround time is shortened extremely. From weeks comes to hours. And that's the efficiency that any company would like to have. There is huge barrier by employees because they lose the power of contact with the customers. So account managers would not be very willing to support this because they have this power of the customer relationship when they do the signing physically, and there is a typical barrier to implement systems like this. But the organizations that would like to turn the efficiency and to become really digital with the customers, this is the key. I mentioned document repository, but basically means that you have a store that is designed specifically for electronic documents. This is not a typical DMS system, does not have versions of documents, does not have orchestration of creating the document. This is a repository of electronic documents, final versions of documents that needs to be kept. Very similar like the paper archives you have, but with all the specifics related to trust of those electronic documents. How this needs to be stored, how it needs to be kept, how to be verified, how to be re-verified, how to share, how to give access to those documents, how to profile them by types. So they're applying QR codes for easier access. If you have a paper copy of the original in digital, how you find it back into the archive. So when you print it out, it will have a QR code, you just photo and immediately go to the digital original. So there are many things that needs to be applied so you can have a real digital repository of documents. And then at the end of the year, you get a notification. According to our policies, this document needs to be destroyed. Please approve by one or multiple persons, 3 signatures, document gets destroyed. You keep the record, but you don't have the document because it had personal data, it had some data that expired, etc., etc. So fully compliant, it can be easily configured by local legislation for classification and be compliant in terms of maintaining it. It can also be used if someone wants to build a service for third-party customers for document keep, because also the eiDAS regulation has a specific standards if you want to become a document storage provider for third parties. There are different type of certifications that you need to run to prove that you are doing the safekeeping of those documents for third parties, not for yourself. I mentioned single sign-on. I will not stick too deep on this, but if you want to create a mobile ID, electronic identification, remote signature, this is one of the core building blocks to do it. So it's not, I would say there are probably many single sign-on systems and identity servers out there on the market, but this one was built specifically for this type of use. So I would not say this is the system you should use for any single sign-on need you want, but if you want to create remote identification and remote signatures, this is the key building block to use it. eSigned, collecting graphical or biometrical signatures. You can use any kind of a biometrical tablet with pen. We will collect all the biometric data according to ISO standard, encrypt it, embed it in the document, seal it, keep it into the storage. But all this process, it's simplified by single component on the tablet or a mobile, or at the backend where you receive those documents. If you have hundreds of agents on the field using tablets, you will have one backend synchronizations for them to use it when they sign and store those documents at the backend. Very simple to be used, and it has its own simplified architecture, how it integrates with all the other building blocks. The signature activation model, maybe it's too technical for everyone in the audience. I don't know the background of the audience, how many of you are into sales or customers, etc. But basically, there is no other way to build certified, validated service for remote signing or electronic identification without using a SAM module. So no one in Europe can provide electronic identification or remote signature without applying a SAM signature activation module component. This is defined by standard, and this is a key requirement. So if someone is providing service of remote signing not using SAM, then it's not qualified. Then it's not certified, or it's providing using some other competitive vendors. What's the key selling message of our SAM module? That it's the first one working on Thales HSMs. There is no other SAM module on the market that is using HSM, Thales HSM. And using Thales HSMs, you bring the competitive advantages of the Thales HSM in terms of performance, security, which none other HSMs on the market has. So there are some competitive SAM modules, but on a very, I would say, degraded security and performance level on the HSM level. So this basically, if someone wants to create a prime level service in terms of performance and security for identification and remote signing, this would be the component to use it. The certification ends sometimes in June, and we hope to have our first case studies quite soon. This is basically a conceptual diagram of the system. So basically, you have mobile users, remote users that have the control of their certificate stored within the HSM using their mobile device. So whenever there is a request sent to identify or to sign with a signature, with a private key that is stored for that user on the HSM, my mobile is the PIN. So when I'm using token, I'm requested to provide a PIN, even to touch the token on the new FIDO level tokens. But when my certificate is stored on the HSM, I need to provide proof that no one, neither the service provider, neither the administrator, no one can misuse my key that is stored there unless I approve it with my mobile phone. So this SAM module provides that proof. And that proof is proven by this certification. And this certification, it's quite complex one. It lasted 2 years so far. But it's done by the independent laboratory in Europe that will prove and list the product on the European Trust List. So if anyone is planning to provide service to customers or to trust service providers in this area, please contact me. We will be willing to present in details what is the competitive advantage on the SAM module that we are providing. Timestamping, very common, I would say, many years on the market already. What we tend to say is that it's a very strong product that can scale, it can provide quality of service, it can be used for really bulk level of timestamping because it was designed to be withstanding large volume of timestamping requests. If organization wants to do it internally, or if someone wants to build a trust service towards customers using our product, also we are willing to deliver more detailed. Any questions before I go into the case studies and references? Someone wants to ask something about what I introduced as a digital building blocks, creating these pillars of trust and providing electronic signatures with one enterprise organization. I mentioned many products, but I will try to simplify now the explanations through a real case studies. So one of the case studies would be Apis IT. Apis IT would be very similar to your eDomsoft. They are the government software provider for Croatia. So they basically serve all the large government agency, customs, tax authority, elections, and many others. They are the private cloud provider for the government and providing common services to all the government organizations. They were looking for automated, unattended sealing, timestamping, and verification product that will be used first for one of their government agencies, but then continue using as a service for others. So signing server was deployed as a multi-tenant architecture, so provides one for each of the government agencies' uses, and each of them, based on the configuration, are able to provide volume of signings using the same infrastructure. So basically, stack of Thales HSMs, stack of Docker-based deployments on signing server that dynamically scale, multi-processing environment, which in production proves that they can sign 1 million documents per hour. So if you ever worked with documents, just transporting them, signing them, storing them, it's extremely costly operation. No matter how fast is the network, how fast are the servers, 1 million transactions of those kind are very expensive. We were able to produce this in 1 hour. And if they want to shorten it further, they just need to add more resources and the system will scale automatically. we have this distributed architecture that can parallelly process depending on the availability of the hardware resources, the HSM resources, so we are able to scale with it. This is basically a second very similar case study. This is Czech Ministry of Health, their Office for Health Information and Statistics. So they are providing service in the exchange of documents between all 35,000 healthcare providers. So they wanted to build trust within the documents. When a single document is issued by one healthcare provider before it's being sent to another with electronic transaction, they wanted to make sure that they can provide authenticity and check of authenticity. So when I'm issuing a document, I will seal it. When other party wants to transact it, we'll verify if it's authentic, not changed, and then transact it. So there is a central infrastructure based on signing server with set of HSMs, keeping the private keys use, but also providing verification proofs, etc. So this all 35,000 endpoints is using one infrastructure to build this trust across the documents being transacted. The same system is used in Macedonia. So the Ministry of Information Society is providing sealing as a service for 100 government agencies. So instead of all of them having their HSM and signing server, they have one infrastructure of signing servers and HSMs, and they, for each of those agencies, provide as a sealing as a service. It's a multi-tenant. Each of them have their own control of the private key. They have their PAD keys, remote access, their specific partition on the HSM. They control how they use the key, how they access, etc., etc. We have one deployment to use it across different organizations. This can be used in large, let's say, companies that have multiple companies within a group of companies. So they have 10, 15, 30 different affiliates within the group. They can build one service to serve it all. Bank with many affiliates in multiple countries, multinational companies. They want to have one infrastructure and use it for different organizations. Or a service provider that would like to provide this as a service to third-party customers. I would not go into details of this scheme. The same was used in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We recently deployed this solution for their construction permit software. So they have electronic construction permit process where someone would apply for electronic permit, but then all the decision is done by the municipalities, and at the end they issue electronic construction permit, which needs to be authentic, that is issued by a specific municipality. They need to use a seal. I don't remember, I think they have more than 150 municipalities in Bosnia. So 150 installations of signing server, HSM or tokens, how to maintain? No, one infrastructure, one multi-tenant, one set of stacked HSMs, 150 municipalities using specific use of their private keys for this system. So there are multiple different implementations. In utilities, the national power company, HEP, it's using this signing server and signing extension to sign on their portals with customers, to sign bulks of documents, invoices, contracts, archival documents, to verify signatures as a central building block. We also used it in Deutsche Telekom. They're using it for providing services to the customer. They're also providing timestamping service. They are providing sealing. They are providing signing portal for orchestration contracts with customers. And this is working for maybe 5-6 years already, and it's being used as such. A1 Telecom, yes? Okay, 5 minutes. I think I'm almost done. A1 Telecom is using for issuing electronic invoices. What is specific in all of those cases that I didn't mention now, it's fast delivery and implementation. For example, this case, to provide electronic signatures for electronic invoices that are coming out of their SAP system and to seal and store, it was as a contract signed on Monday, acceptance was done on Friday. 5 working days to deploy, configure, and integrate. So the products are built to be used fast and deployed fast by system integrators or developers. the previous project that I mentioned from Croatia, the total project pre-sales cycle was very long, but from signing the contract to the delivery, 30 days. To sign millions of documents. So it's very fast turnaround time when you want to deploy to the customer. It's easy to administer, it's easy to support, and there is a big knowledge base to transfer to partners or to customers, how they can maintain themselves, etc., etc. I will not maybe go into too much details, maybe two more references. So a lot of banks are using this for remote onboarding, if they want to use remote IDs, remote signatures, they want to remotely onboard the customer, open account, ask them to sign conditions of the account, issue credit cards. So we have many of those cases that banks literally becoming digital banks without knowing the customer. So they have a public ad, you want to open an account and get a credit card, you click it, they identify you, they give you a contract, you sign it, you open an account, and they ask you on which address they want to pick up your credit card. So the whole process runs completely in a couple of minutes, and you'll have a credit card and bank account in a new bank. We also have different, even hard cases. During the pandemic, the National Chamber of Commerce wanted to provide easier way to issue certificates of origin for companies. So when they start delivering goods, basically across different countries, they need to have certificate of origin to cross the border, to pass the customs, etc. The problem of issuing paper certificate of origin is that you literally need to go to different front desk offices to supply some documentation, but all of that can be done electronically. So the system that was built that these large exporters would go online, supply the required documentation, get the electronic certificate of origin while their trucks are on the way. While they're on the way to the border, they would just deliver this on a tablet. So when they come to the customs would just QR code scan, see the digital original, verify that there's real document behind that, and they can pass the border. This system won Global World Trade Organization Digital Champion Award 1 or 2 years ago, because it really changed the way traditional systems at customs and borders work. No one believed that it can be done so fast, because they would say, no, they will ask paper at the border. No, it went through. It took them a couple of months to communicate with different countries the change in the issuing of the documents, and it went through. So big things and big changes can be done in a simple way. And again, I will mention this whole project was 3 months. Although it's a very traditional logistics, shipping, large exporters business where papers dominate, it took only 3 months to implement it. I would not go further into details. This is the links, you will have it in the presentations if you want to register to become a partner or to get more info on the products. Of course, Kliko, Zoltan is our partner account manager, or so anything that you would require, Kliko or directly to us, we are willing to assist you in any potential case that you might have. Any questions? I'll be available in the whole room if someone wants to discuss further. Thank you.